I've been working on my task board application a little bit offline, and I wanted to show you some features that I added. The first one that I added was the ability to directly add a item or a task from the UI rather than having to always use the command line. So I would normally add a task like this. But now I can go ahead and just click on this add button right here. It opens a dialog box. I can go ahead and save it, and there you go. So you have an item. I also went ahead and changed the toggle to a button that's either enabled or disabled. So if I click on this, it shows the list view. If I click on it again, it disables the list view. I've also added a settings icon that you can see here, but I haven't added any functionality to it yet, so it does nothing right now. The other thing that I've added is a path bar right here. What this does is it shows you where you are currently within your tasks, and it also allows you to go back and forth very easily. So if I go ahead and click on Hello World, you can see that right now it's saying that I'm in Hello World. I can go ahead and add another task here, Hello World 2, and then I can click on this, and then you can see I'm in Hello World 2, and it also like kind of eclipses it if it's too long of a name. And then if I want to go back to the main board, I can just click over here, or I can even go back to Hello World by clicking here, and then main, and I can jump around easily. I want to start this video off by removing some functionality that I'd added on earlier. Specifically, I'm trying to remove the ability to give two almost names to a task. I have a text content here, and then I also have a board name. And the reason I did this initially was so that I could keep a small board name and have a large text content. So my text content could be much larger than my board name, and it wouldn't cause any UI issues, or it would look much cleaner. But as time is going on, I'm realizing that I am truncating the text content anyways, so there's no real reason to do this. I've gone ahead and removed the board name now, so it's not here anymore, and I've also added this getter, which is called save text. All this does is it makes sure that the text is less than 16 characters in length, and if it's not, it goes ahead and truncates it, and then also adds these three dots, suggesting it's like an ellipses. And if I open you can see right here, I have this really long task. If I click on this, you can see that it truncates it right down here. On the top bar, I've allowed it to have the entire text. So this can be filled up. But for the path bar, it truncates it. This also makes the editing much cleaner now. So we don't have a board name and a text content. It's not as confusing. We just have the text content, and that's it. The next task that I want to work on is adding a calendar directly in the edit item dialog box. So I know right now I'm using the default Google Calendar, and this is nice, but I want to give it some personal touches because it seems very out of place. And I would also like it for it to be integrated directly within the dialog box instead of being something that pops up like this. Let me go ahead and do that, and I'll be right back. So it looks like there's no real way to put this calendar widget directly on the dialog box. So what I want to do is I'm going to go ahead and create my own calendar widget. I'm not sure how difficult this will be, but let me go ahead and get started on it, and I'll be right back. Just want to give an update of where I am so far. So I've gone ahead and created my own calendar widget. You can go through all the different months. You can go ahead and select any date. So for example, I select May 9th, and if I move forward and then I go back to May, you can see that the 9th is still selected. I also have this button down here that takes me to the current day, or today's date. There's still quite a bit of work to be done, so let me go ahead and continue, and I'll be back. Okay, I think I have an implementation I'm pretty satisfied with. So as you can see here, we have our calendar widget right down here. We can go ahead and select a date. Let's say we do March 7th. Click save, and you can see that the due date is set to March 7th. I've also gone ahead and updated how priority is set. So instead of being a slider, which I didn't think looked that great, we can now go ahead and select the number of flags, and that will set the value. So if you set the priority to 3, click save, and you can see the priority is set to 3. And then we can always go ahead and just remove both of these values and click save, and everything's gone. Perfect. The next task that I want to implement is the ability to update the parent task of any task that I have. So in this case, new items parent task is the main task, and we can see this more clearly in our database. In this board right here, we have two items, one with an ID of 7 and one with an ID of 6. They both belong to the main item itself. What does that mean? Let's look at the database. So here I have that item, ID 7, and it has a text of new item. If I click on the parent item, you can see that it belongs to the main item, which has an ID of 1. By adding the ability to change parent items, I can move these items from one item to another. So for instance, I can move item 7 into item 6. And then if I were to click on item 6, I would see item 7 right here. This brings a few different complications, but I'm going to go ahead and write some code up and then I'll be right back. I've gone ahead and added the ability to change the parent item of a task. Let me go ahead and give you a demo here. In this scenario, I have 4 items, and I want to go ahead and move the entirety of item 4, including the items within it, into item 1. So all I have to do is I have to click item 4 to edit, and then in the parent item, you can see that the current parent item is the main item. I just go ahead and select item 1 here, and then I click save. You'll see that item 4 is gone, and it has moved inside of item 1. If I go inside item 1, I can now see that item 4 is here, including all the items within it. And there you go. That's what I was trying to implement. Another edge case that I was dealing with was I wanted to make sure that an item couldn't point to itself in some way, or a child item. In other words, if I go into item A here, you can see that I have 3 items, A1, A2, and A3. What would happen if item A's parent item was A1? It would disappear. It wouldn't be on the main board anymore. If I wanted to reach item A, I would need to reach A1, but I can't reach A1 because it's an A. So this loop is what I needed to make sure I accidentally didn't happen. Because if it did, then there would be those values in the database, but they wouldn't be accessible through the main board. To solve this issue, what I did was I filtered all the values out of the current item. So you can see here that I do not have items A1, A2, and A3. And similarly, if I go into item B here, I have B1. If I go back and I double click on this, notice that item B1 is not here. This is to make sure that this loop doesn't form and the item doesn't disappear. To demo this, I've gone ahead and made some code changes. If I look at item A right now, you'll see that the validation is gone. Item A is able to not only have a parent item of itself, but also A1, A2, and A3. Let's see what happens if I select item A1 and save it. Notice that item A has disappeared. Let me show you what's happening in the database. You'll notice that item A is still here. It hasn't been removed from the database. The parent item for item A is item A1. If I scroll down to item A1, you'll notice that the parent item for item A1 is item A. And this loop is what's causing the issue. Since none of the items in this loop connect to the main board, we're not able to access any of it. Not only have we lost item A, but we've also lost item A1, A2, and A3. And this is why I had to go ahead and filter out the child values so that this doesn't happen. Now, let me go ahead and clean up the database by deleting all these values. So we can go ahead and delete up item A. And then item A2 can be deleted. Item A1 can be deleted. And item A3 can be deleted. And there you go. Now all of the items do connect back to the main board. I'm pretty happy with the features I've implemented today. Tomorrow, I plan on adding the ability for users to change where their database is stored on their computer. It's 7:34 p.m. now, and I'm going to go ahead and get dinner. See y'all tomorrow. Hello all, it's the next day, and last night I got a chance to work on the settings dialog box a bit. There's still some bugs that I have to work out and some UI elements. So let me go ahead and clean this up a bit, and I'll be right back. It's been a few hours now. I went to the gym, took a nice walk, and I think I have an implementation that I'm pretty happy with. If you click on this settings icon, you'll see that the settings dialog box appears. And I should probably change the name of the dialog box because it's more of like a database manager. All of our items are stored onto a database, and currently we would just have one database, which was called the default one, and that's the one we use for everything. But my hope is with this dialog box, the user will be able to not only create new databases, but also import a database they had on another computer or a database they have on the cloud. Let me go ahead and show you one by one what functionality this dialog box gives the user. The first one is it just shows you the current database that you're on. So right now you're on the default database. It shows you where it's located too. The next one is it allows you to create a new database. So let's go ahead and give a database a name. So let's just call it database 2. And then you can select where to store it. Let's go ahead and store it on the desktop. And then you can click create database. If I go to the File Explorer and go to the desktop, you'll see that a new file has been created called database2.iser. And this is what your database is. It's just a file. So you can create a database like that. Then you can also go ahead and import a database, which I'll show in just a second. Before I go into that, let me show you what all the databases here does. It gives you a list and keeps track of all the databases that you've opened on the application while on the computer. And it gives you a few different functionalities here. It allows you to set it as a default database. So whenever you open the application again, it will be set as a default one. It allows you to open the database up. So right now you can see that database 2 is open because that's the one I just created. If I click on this, it'll switch and now the default database is open. And it also allows you to delete the database. Now this will only delete the connection, almost in quotes, to the database. It won't really delete the ISER file. So you can see that if I delete this right here, it's gone. But if I open the File Explorer, the database 2 ISER file is still there. If I want, I can bring that database back by simply just going ahead and clicking on Import Database and then clicking on Database 2. And you can see that it's back and it's open. This functionality will allow me to move my databases from one computer to another, but even more importantly, it will allow the ability for me to keep my database on the cloud, on iCloud or Google Drive or Microsoft OneDrive. And then I can easily make updates on another computer and I'll see those updates on this computer itself. So that's the huge benefit here of having the ability to import databases. I think I'm pretty happy with what I've implemented so far. I think that's all I'm going to do this weekend. I have a lot of video editing to do, so I'll work on that. And I'll also maybe do some UI and code cleanup before I start my next devlog. If you have any feature suggestions, make sure to drop them down in the comment section below. I would love to try to implement them. I think this is a good stopping point, and I do want to start moving on to other projects. At the end of the day, this task board's main purpose was for me to be able to manage my projects, so I don't want to spend so much time just continuously working on it and adding on to it. There's an endless amount of things that can be done here, but I definitely want to stop and move on. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you all next time.